I'm super excited about this because we talked a lot about 90 Day Fiancé yesterday and
Yes.
some HGTV and some fun stuff. Why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about why you love your job?
Hi, everybody. My name is Abbi McCollum. I work for Warner Brothers Discovery, specifically in our U.S. Nets division. So I oversee the content strategy for currently HGTV, Food Network, TLC, Discovery, OWN, a little bit of ID Network, a lot of our U.S. Nets. I've been with the company almost 13 years. I am based in our Knoxville office, which is the mothership of HGTV. That's where we got started. And now we're everywhere. Now that we are part of Warner Brothers Discovery, we have offices everywhere, a big one here in Atlanta. I just was there last week. So just really excited to be part of all of this. And I love coming to these events because I see the marketing side of the world. I kind of represent the organic brand strategy, social media side of it all. And so I love coming and learning more about everything marketing, because my marketing is more, here's the content, here's the brand, here's how I'm engaging with the audience. And so that's where I come
In Knoxville, going back to old Scripps days, I love that.
Yes.
So you shared with me yesterday that your job has changed quite a bit in the last few months. You've kind of gone from social into more of the traditional digital O&O properties. Talk to us a little bit about that change, what it's meant for you, and like where your vision is heading.
So when I first started with Scripps, which was the parent company back in the day, that's where I started. I came from a background of websites working, that's where I started with southernliving.com, working in that whole kind of publishing digital world, then moved to TV right after that, working on, literally that was my job, programming director for the website for HGTV.com. Then about 10 years ago, when the internet was getting bigger, social media was getting bigger, I kind of convinced everyone we need an Instagram account, we need Facebook, we need all of this. Like I started the Instagram account for HGTV, really got that going, so worked very heavily in social for a long time. Still work very closely with them, but now kind of have shifted to how can we use all of our sites to really create more in-depth content to go deeper into all of our shows. So we have tons of talent that people recognize. Luckily, we have faces that people know on a daily basis. We have the Property Brothers, we have Joanna and Chip Gaines, we have Aaron and Ben Napier, we have so many people from 90 Day Fiancé, I can't even name them all. We have a lot of different people, all the chefs from Food Network. So how can we create a more in-depth experience for our fans so that as they are doing kind of a two-screen experience, as they're watching a show, how can then they go to our sites and say, I want to learn about what happened behind the scenes of Wizards of Baking, which is the new show on Food Network that has the Weasley twins from Harry Potter hosting an amazing food competition show. So that's where my team is now going to come in. I've been focusing a lot on this for HGTV for the last many years, how we're creating a strategy on our site, using social to really amplify it, putting it in our newsletters, putting it across, everything we can syndicate for Apple News, for things like that, taking that strategy and putting it across all of these other brands that I mentioned too.
That's awesome. And I know you and I both share a passion for content as like a dyed-in-the-wool Guy Fieri Triple D guy. I want to know, like, how do you look at the fandoms that you guys create across these franchises? And like, how do you start identifying when they're popping and where to deliver the content to?
Good question. We do have some that are tried and true. We have the Guy Fieris that have been around forever. We have the Property Brothers that have been around forever. Sometimes it's even looking at some of these legacy talent, legacy brands. How can we reinvigorate them? How can we bring them back as the host of a new show? How can we put them in a completely new environment, get them out to the audience in a different way? But we do have new concepts and new shows all of the time. How can we reach audiences to tell them that these people are there? Tell them there's new concepts for shows. That's where we really partner with all of our different digital arms. We partner with social, we partner with newsletters, we partner with O&O, we partner with all of the different parts of our company. And then obviously we have a very strong marketing team, very strong PR team. So working across all of those brands. One of the things I told you yesterday was what we're realizing a lot is that while we know all of these talent very well, and we know Jonathan and Drew Scott, we know exactly who they are. When we put a video up of them on TikTok, people don't know who they are. They're just two tall twins. Like, who are they? So a lot of the times to new audiences, it's the content and it's what we're grabbing them in the 3 seconds that we've grabbed them. So instead of saying, here's David Bromstead, who is one of our hosts for HGTV, here's what he's doing. Instead we say, here's a $5 million house in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's the first clip, that's the text you see on screen. And so then we can say, this is the house that David's working to sell or helping a couple get into on My Lottery Dream Home. And so then we take that piece, we write even an article about it for the site, promote it in our newsletters, kind of create a whole 360 experience so that when people think, where did I see that video? If they go to Google and type it in, they can find the content that backs it up. So really recognizing that new audiences, we have to get new audiences in. My family is obsessed with Bob's Burgers, that TV show. And there was a cute little intro the other day where a car pulled up in front of the Bob's restaurant and it said Mouse Hunters International on it. And I thought that was so funny and I started laughing and my kids were like, why is that funny? I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old and I was like, because of House Hunters International. And they were like, I don't get it. And I was like, House Hunters. And they were like, ugh. I mean, I know they're not our target audience. I know 8-year-olds and 11-year-olds are not my target audience. But it did make me recognize, like, we have so much that we have to get in front of people still. And so that's where we get in front of them with really great content that's not necessarily show-focused, talent-focused at first. It's the content that is really driving the eyeballs in the first few seconds that we can get them. And then we layer on tune-in messaging, talent messaging, show messaging. But we also recognize there are the people who love these shows. We have the huge fandoms behind them. And so that's where we can go really deep into this content. And that's what I'm really excited about doing with this new role that I have, kind of learning some shows that I haven't been as deep in the past. You know, we have so many TLC shows that people are very into. We have Sister Wives, we have 1,000 Pound Sisters, we have a lot of crazy shows that people really love. And how we're gonna really get the fandom excited about that more.
So I want to double click on something you said there. You talked about like speaking to the younger generation in a different way. Like you can put up the Property Brothers and everybody just thinks of them as two tall Canadian twins.
Yeah.
How do you identify kind of like the hook or whatever it may be, the way to speak to the younger generation to galvanize a show that might be more targeted at a 35 plus demographic towards like an 18-year-old? Where do you find that the $5 million home in Wisconsin is going to pop with them?
We really kind of look at the landscape of social and like what are people really interested in. You know, we see that people want to see a quick makeover. You know, sometimes it's like I want to see what the before and after looks like. So sometimes it's quickly putting up the before and after so they can see that and then showing them the process behind it. It might be showing the price point if it's more of a flipping or a real estate show, or if it's a food show, showing what the finished recipe is going to look like and then going more in depth into that. So it's really, we know that we've got those few seconds to grab them on social, and so it's finding those hooks that are different for each show, but bringing them in. And then, like, this new role that I've got, like, taking that and creating an even bigger experience around it. We had a fun little video thing we did last week where our social team in New York, the Property Brothers happened to be in town because they were doing a press tour for one of their new shows. Their names in real life are the Phelps twins, so the Weasley brothers, who are the host of Wizards of Baking, were also in New York for their press tour for Wizards of Baking. Two sets of identical twins. Let's play with that. So they did a lot of crossover videos of like, what if you were wizards who were actually the Property Brothers? What if you're in construction and you're the Weasley twins? So they did a fun video on that. And then we followed up and did an article on the site that we can then promote in newsletters. I know someone said earlier that, you know, email isn't necessarily the sexiest thing, but I think it's super sexy. Like, I love newsletters. We have a ton of subscribers on HGTV and Food Network and TLC and everywhere that love our content. Like, to get right in front of their faces, like with super deep links where we can give them a ton of content, that is super sexy.
Email, SEO, all the good stuff.
Tell me, all those words, yeah.
So, when we think about streaming platforms and like how consumption patterns have changed, and like I've been in the OLV landscape for far longer than I'm willing to admit, but you guys have two distinct streaming platforms at WBD, which is interesting, between Max and Discovery Plus. How do you leverage those two platforms off of each other? How do you start to like target those new shows through those streaming platforms? And like, what is the overall ethos behind having kind of the two different streaming platforms for different things?
We've also got linear TV. We've also got watch apps. We have got so many ways for people to watch all of our content, which I think is a benefit. You know, we can say we are there wherever you are. You know, whether you have cable, I even personally, to admit, don't have cable, but I have Hulu Live. So I watch all of our shows on Hulu Live. So we're wherever people are. So Discovery Plus launched as our streaming app when we were Discovery. Then we merged, or became Warner Bros. Discovery. Now we have Max. both still exist, because I think for a lot of consumers, if they want a lot of our unscripted content, all of it's everywhere, but a lot of it really lives on Discovery Plus. They can go there. We share the messaging with our fans across all of our platforms. You can watch it live same day, so if it's tonight at 9/8 Central, usually, like right now, it's live same day airing on Discovery Plus, next day on Max. You can also log in with your cable subscribing and what. Honestly, it's terrifying to get that messaging out to fans too, though. Like, how can they watch it like that? So that's where my team can come in and say, like, I have to go to Google sometimes and say, how can I watch Nobody Wants This? Obviously with Netflix, that's the only place it could be. But for content like ours, where you can watch it in so many places, we have how to watch content on a lot of our websites. And that's one of the things we're going to expand a little bit more, like how can I watch some of these shows, and we're going to tell them exactly how to watch it. So there's a lot of ways to watch our stuff.
That's awesome. It goes back to the old days of like deep linking, when you used to be able to Google a show and you would go to Hulu to watch it, but it would actually deep link you over to wherever it might be available. That's fascinating to me. So brace yourself. We're going to talk about the deep internet for a second. So you talked a lot about the fandoms and they can't get enough. We talked about Substack and Reddit yesterday. What are some of the things that you guys are out there curating for these like hyper fans that want to go deeper rather than wider on like their favorite shows?
I mean, I think that's an interesting shift that's happened over the internet in the last few years. Like, I was like, everything is cyclical. Everything goes back to how it was. Blogs that started back in the day were so in depth and give you so much content, and you could go and you could own that experience on your website. People could control it, and then social took over, and social still is obviously king, but like, how can we then take social to push these deeper experiences? I have had so many people in the last few weeks say that, Reddit's my favorite platform because I can kind of create my own experience there. Sometimes it scares me to death, but there is an HGTV Reddit that I go onto all of the time. So I'm totally lurking there and completely...
We're coming back then. Brace yourself.
Yeah. And I can see what the fans say, though. And I have made sure that all of our, linear programming people are aware of this. Like, you need to know what people are saying about these shows and about our talent. I'm sure our talent are living on there, too. I'm sure they're lurking because they know it's there, too. But, Substack is another interesting one to me. We're not there, but I'm seeing so many people that are creating deeper experiences, and that tells me that people want more. And so that's why I think that investing my time and my team's time right now to create these bigger experiences on our website really allow us to control the fandom and excitement around it. So even if it's a returning show or a new show, we can tell them about it, and we can let them learn, if it's a new show that we have coming up of a couple that bought a resort in Costa Rica, they need to know why these people bought it. What's their background? Why would they do this? Why would they put all of their money into this? And so if someone Googles that, they're going to come to an article on our site. This doesn't premiere for a few months, so it's not there right now. But when it does premiere, they'll know more about these people and why they made this life decision. So then they're hopefully going to be even more interested in watching the show.
Fascinating. So what's the best thing you've seen on the HGTV Reddit so far?
Oh my God. People talking about the Property Brothers outfit choices the other day. That's what I saw. They were talking about they're still wearing plaid. They're still wearing some of, the businessman and the contractor guy. They're still rocking that sometimes, even though they have definitely stepped up their wardrobe game. That was the most recent one I saw.
That's fun. So you brought up like the idea of kind of going deeper down the funnel and giving more curated context around shows. And I think like the Harry Potter universe is like a fascinating case study of this. And the Wizarding World of Baking that you guys are going to be launching. Is that something that you guys are planning out for new shows as well? When you go to launch a new show, are you thinking about a full funnel strategy around kind of like what are the deeper experiences we can go? Obviously, Harry Potter being the biggest one. You've got books, you've got movies, you've got theme parks, you've got all sorts of stuff.
Right.
But how do you curate that for a new show?
There are some shows that are just going to take over the world. Like, when we had the Summer of Barbie, HGTV leaned in, and so we had a Barbie dream house. We actually bought a house right outside of Los Angeles. It was just a neighborhood house, and we turned it and made it the Barbie dream house. And so each room was curated by different HGTV talent. The Barbie movie was part of our company. We just became a whole immersive experience, promotional windows all over the places. That was huge. That's not going to happen all the time, obviously. Sometimes it's just a flipping show. Sometimes it's just a baking show. How can we get people to really be excited about those too? And that is where we use every different avenue we can. Putting it across social, creating these deeper stories, using our newsletters, which have millions of subscribers, getting it out to them, using our cross-net capability. So because we're all one family and a lot of people that are interested in this lifestyle brands want to see food, want to see home, want to see lifestyle, So that's where we lean on our TV partners to say, you know, let's get some love. Let's get some promos across all of these different networks that we can control and get the messaging out to our fans that this is there. And then using social too. You know, that's the huge part of it also. And, you know, I remind our TV people all the time that, you know, as someone said earlier, like they don't watch TV right now. A lot of people don't watch TV. Their channels, their shows they watch at night are influencer number 1, influencer number 2, and influencer number 3. Like that's what I do at night. Like, what did this lady who's a random mom in Utah do today with her kids? Like that's what I'm gonna watch, and that's my show tonight. You know, but how do we make sure we're in front of that audience? How do we make sure that our bubble is right there at the top of Insta stories too, telling people about it, tune in tonight? I was listening to a podcast yesterday about someone saying, I didn't even see a promo about, it was one of our shows, it was a Bravo show, about this Bravo show, but then I saw someone post about it on their Insta story, so I knew it was premiering tonight. And so like that's what we're aware of. People aren't necessarily always watching TV, aren't necessarily seeing these promos, so we have to make sure we're across all of the different platforms and getting them out, getting the messaging out everywhere.
So I think for everyone in the room, like that is a very complex thing to do that you made sound extremely easy. Let's talk about let's talk about the partnership that exists in a massive company like WBD to bring that to life. Like you're talking social, digital, television, out-of-home assets. Like how does that partnership work?
We have things called fusion meetings, and they're some of my favorite meetings because sometimes I get really cool previews into the Superman movie that's not premiering for many, many months, but I got to see a really cool preview of it because it was how can all of these brands work together to help support our shows. So if it's, you know, a Superman movie that's coming, if it's the Friends 30th anniversary, that's an example actually that's happening right now. So if it's a Friends 30th anniversary, obviously a lot of brands can lean in. Food Network can make a cake. Food Network has it so easy sometimes. You can just bake a cake. We can't build a house that makes every house look like the Barbie house, but they can make a cake, and they're gorgeous and amazing. But what we can do is we can know in advance that this is coming, and so we can have a couple episodes of House Hunters that might have Friends fanatics that are then going to build and try and find a house that reminds them of Friends. So we have the one where they're Friends fans. Literally, that's an episode of House Hunters that's coming out. Like, the one where, so for 1 week, all of the shows, all of the titles for Friends, or for House Hunters episodes are going to be the one where, which is obviously how Friends was titled all their episodes. So it's subtle things like that, and then we write articles about it on the site, so it's not just subtle, we throw it in front of the fans' faces to know that that's what we're doing. So, you know, the Minecraft movie that we do have coming out, we had a big fusion meeting about that. Any kind of big promotional opportunity within the company, we talk about it. We have months in advance to plan these things. So for Food Network, holidays and holiday baking and Thanksgiving is Super Bowl. That's Super Bowl for us. Everything right around this time, like next week, is when we're really pushing out a ton of content. So Food Network holiday is a fusion priority. And so a lot of brands are leaning in to try and support baking at the holiday times.
I love that. I mean, being able to galvanize an entire organization like that behind something like the idea of a fusion meeting is fascinating. So before we kind of kick it over to them, everybody else for a question, I wanted to see, like, what is the thing that has you most excited in the next 6 months?
Really learning all of these new brands that I'm working with and figuring out ways that I can learn the fandoms. Like we were saying, 90 Day Fiance is humongous. I mean, you see celebrities talking about it all the time. How can I leverage that a little bit more? How can we really dive deep? So the team over there has been focusing a lot on the social world of TLC, and they've done an amazing job. I mean, it's everywhere. We have social accounts just for 90 Day. But where we can go deeper is in all of these site experiences. How can we build out more of where are they now? Like, give me some interviews with some of these people. Are they still together? What's happening? Who are the fan favorites? Who are the ones they hate? Like, that's what I want to figure out how to build out more, even with some HGTV shows and some Food Network shows. What's happening? How can we go deeper into the top 10 cakes that are happening on Holiday Baking Championship? Giving people more things to look at and more things to click through and more things to talk about. You know, like sometimes putting content out there helps other people then talk about our brand more. So I think that's what I'm excited about, giving people a lot more content to engage with.
Awesome. Other side of that, what scares you the most?
Giving people a lot of content to talk about. Because if we give it to them, then they're going to talk about it, and hopefully they love it. Like, I want them all to love all of our content and all of our shows. And then when I go on Reddit and they don't, I'm like, why don't you love that as much as I do? And so really focusing on the positive of all of this, looking at what people are saying, though. I mean, the comments on Facebook alone, teach me so much about what they want, like what the fans want. And I'm telling, you know, our linear programming partners all of the time, read what people are saying, know what they want, know what they don't like, you know, so that we know as we're programming additional shows coming forward for 26, 27, let's learn from our audience. So sometimes we even put up little questions that are like, what was your favorite HGTV show? What's your favorite HGTV decorating show? And then if there's 1,000 comments, the development team is reading every single one of those. So we're using that as kind of like our own little demo test panel.
I'm not gonna lie, if you get into one of those bad Reddit threads, I can imagine those cakes from the Food Network come in handy, because that's gonna be a tough day. Passing it over to you guys, like, who's got a question here?
Hello. How do you think the audience would respond if you were to feature content creators on social media or influencers on shows as special guests?
We love doing that. So we actually, one of our shows that we had on HGTV was called Battle on the Beach. And we tried to find influencer teams of DIY couples, and they would come and compete with us. There's a woman who actually, I don't know if she's Atlanta-based, but I know she works with a lot of Atlanta-based companies. Her handle's Smashly DIY. She does a lot of stuff for Home Depot and stuff. She was one of our competitors on the last season of Battle on the Beach. And so we try and get as much of that because, frankly, we want their audience, too. The more they can talk about our shows, the better. So even if they're not on our shows, we're doing a lot of influencer marketing, working with different agencies, trying to get the messaging out there to people. On Food Network especially, they have a huge opportunity for this because there's so many guest judge opportunities with Chopped, with a lot of the different baking shows. The Food Network team also worked on this amazing thing called the Food Network Hot List, where they identified a lot of different influencer type people that might not be professional chefs, but have really great presence across social. Some of them are professional chefs, but just different levels of kind of talent. You know, they're just talented in a lot of different ways. And so they made this Food Network Hot List, and they really identified that. They got to come to New York for a day, be in the Food Network kitchen. So that really helps the audience and hopefully like digital creators know that we're watching and we're seeing what a lot of these people are doing. We're figuring out ways to do this across HGTV and some of the other brands in the coming year because we saw the success that Food Network had with this. And so we want to expand that even more.
You're sitting on a treasure trove of content, which means you're sitting on a treasure trove of data.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how dynamic you're seeing audiences from a consumption standpoint, right? Because I think a lot of times we'll have preconceived notions on the person that watches HGTV is absolutely not watching Batman. How dynamic are you seeing audiences?
We're learning a lot about that by leaning heavily on some of our analytics teams. I wish we had more. Unfortunately, like that was one of the teams that got cut from us a few years ago, but that was before we kind of merged. And so now that we have this larger company of Warner Brothers Discovery, we can lean in and say, okay, what are you guys learning about your audiences over here for, you know, a Superman movie? Who are you leaning into? How can we learn about what those viewers are watching? You know, one of the things that we know on HGTV is that our audience is older. And so a lot of times people are like, I love HGTV. And I'm like, great. Do you watch it a lot? And they're like, yeah, when I go to my mom's house, I watch it all the time. I'm like, oh. So how can we let them know that actually you can watch it a lot of different places? You can stream it. You can stream it across 2 different streamers. You can log in with a cable subscriber. You can log with your mom's cable subscriber. Like you can find it in a lot of different places. Our YouTube channel, we've actually taken a lot of our episodes and cut them down so that it's not a 43-minute episode, it's a 15-minute episode. So we're using that to really reach younger audiences, and we're learning about that. So we're really tracking the audiences to say, as we put this content out on YouTube, the audiences are younger, but they're consuming all of it. So that's what we're then turning around and telling some of our linear partners, like, this is the data that we're getting across social platforms and different digital platforms. How can you use that to create more content in the linear space?
I did have a question. You had mentioned something about fusion meetings and just listening to Reddit and just different ways to get ideas for new shows. Speaking of that, in terms of just the diverseness of our country, you know, how do you utilize that to create shows that will attract different aspects of our demographic?
We are constantly trying to be more diverse in what we're doing. You know, even if it's featuring different areas of the country. You know, we don't just want to show people that live in California. We have a lot of shows that are filmed in California, but we also want to show people that live in Arkansas. We want to show people that live in South Dakota. We want to show people that live in all the different places. I mean, I think that we could do a lot better with our diversity across some of our brands. And so I think that's what we're looking forward to. The problem with some of our shows, like HGTV, it takes a long time to build a house. And so, you know, if a show is in production right now, it's going to air Q4 25. And so that's where some of our other networks have a little bit of a leg up, because a cooking show, it doesn't take as long to cook a cake or to make some chicken. So like they have a lot more opportunity to bring in different kind of people from different backgrounds, different like digital creators, different chefs from all kinds of different backgrounds, from different food genres, from different areas of the country. So we're kind of trying to figure out, using that information, how we can use that across different shows, even if they're not in the shows, but how to create digital experiences around the shows that bring different audiences in.
You bring up a fascinating challenge there that takes a really long time to build a house. Are there ways that you guys can react in real time to like dynamic changing of audiences when you have such a long lead time for one network on building out shows?
Sometimes it just takes a long time to build a house. But, we can do different projects where we can say, like, okay, for example, it's not going to be an entire house makeover. We had a show that was called No Demo Reno, where instead they focused on 2 spaces in the house, and it wasn't a full demolition. So that was a much quicker show to produce, because it wasn't saying we're going to knock down this whole house, take it to the bones, and then rebuild it. It was more, we're going to leave everything as it is. We're going to, update the kitchen. We're going to paint it, and we're going to just show you some things you can do without changing the structural things in your house. So those shows can be produced a lot faster. So that is where we are like, okay, people on the internet want to see quick demos. They love the before and afters. That's what they want to see. They don't necessarily need us to take a house down to the studs. They just want to see how to make their kitchen better. And also using different research that we can say, like, people want to see lower cost renovations. They don't necessarily have $300,000 sitting in a bank to just go flip a house. So how can we use some of these to build out some of our strategies for the shows in the years coming?
It's awesome. Any other questions?
Hi, Abby. Good to see you. I have a very important question. Is Oprah still involved in network, and have you met her?
Oh my God, she is. So one of my jobs is that I also oversee the YouTube channel and the newsletter and site strategy for Oprah.com and OWN. And I was about as far away as like the coffee urn from her one time. I was in New York. I was in our Burbank office, and our own office is on the WB lot in a separate building, because we have to have specific security in that building in case Oprah comes to the office. So our own office cannot be in our regular office. It has to be on this special building. And my coworker called me and was like, "What time are you coming over here?" I was like, "My meeting's not till 2. I'll be there at 2." And she was like, "Oprah is here right now." And I literally slammed my laptop shut, and I was like, "I have to go." And I was like, "Oprah is in the building, I'm leaving." And I just told everyone in that meeting I was in, I'm leaving. Like, this is more important than anything we're talking about right now. And so I literally got in my car, drove to this building, was 2 seconds away, and I sat there, and she had no recognition that I was there. It didn't matter, because she wasn't there for me. She was there to film.
You felt the presence, though.
I felt the presence. I smelled her. Like, it was amazing. So she's very much involved. She is still very much involved. She's Oprah. She's not every day involved by any means, but she is very much still involved.
That's awesome.
That's one of the best days of my life, actually.
Anything else?
That's a good question. We have a lot of affiliate shopping that we do through just our websites. So that's, using our social platforms, using newsletters to really push some of this. I know that a lot of our TV marketing, sales, everybody is figuring out the different ways to use the QR codes. We're trying to do it more through, just because this is content is king in my brain, we're trying to do it through content. So it's more like, here's an experience about a show, here's what you can learn about these people. Oh, and if you like them, you might also want to buy these great things. Also, we're really leaning in, everyone's talking about AI. One of the things that we're really leaning in on is like how Google's got the EEAT thing. Like, we want to make sure that people know that we are experts in our field, that our talent are experts, that they're real chefs, that they're real designers, that they're real decorators, that our editors that work on our site are real people who are real experts in their field. We have a master gardener on our staff who does, oversees all of our gardening content. And so we're really trying to establish ourselves as experts in what we do, and really like building out bios for our editors, making sure that as Google looks at us, we're real people. Like, we are not just ChatGPTing our way through gardening content. Like, we're really employing experts as we do this, spending money to hire freelance writers that are really good at what they do and know their fields. And so then when we do an expert write-up of the 20 gardening things that you need to buy for spring, it's written by our master gardener. And so that's where we're hoping our audiences can appreciate that. And so it's not just a random roundup. It's by someone who knows gardening. It's by someone who can really tell them, here's the things that you need to know to have the perfect baking setup in your kitchen because they're a baking expert. And so we're really kind of leaning in on the expertise level. I mean, AI is definitely where things are going, and you know, our teams are using that, like someone said, to like resize images, and like if you need to create one, you know, show art that has to go across Hulu and YouTube and everywhere, like so many different resizing, we're using it for things like that, but we really also want to pull back and create content that's created by experts.
Quick question on that. Obviously, you guys have experts for a very long time. You've been able to deliver incredible content. How are you thinking about the creator future? Not like the mid-level professional creators, but your audience, right? You're delivering incredible value and utility to them. How are you thinking about engaging them to help you create content? Just thinking about Google, what you're talking about, Google's more and more looking for those communities to be involved. They're looking for like the Reddits or the fandoms of the world who have kind of like a real-time updating of information. Just curious if you're thinking about that, or if you're very focused on kind of like the one way.
No, I think I have been focused on the one way. I have been focused on sending the content out to people via social. That's what I've been focusing on for the last many years. But now that I'm thinking more about creating the content, if we're going to put stuff out there for fandoms, I think it should be I want the conversation to come back to us. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see, you know, what are people creating using the DIY tips that we're giving them. If we're putting out all this baking content, I want to see what they're creating. So I think having that is going to be a really big part of the conversation, like engaging these communities where we hear back from them too. You know, we have talked to Reddit. We have like our handle that we could be doing Reddit as ourselves if we want to, but that's just so daunting because you have to have someone on Redditing.
All the time.
Yeah. I keep telling them I need to be up in Roblox all over the place with HGTV. We need a dream home in there for Bloxburg. I need all of these houses in there. As I sit with my kids, I'm still a bacon when it comes to Roblox because I'm just a newbie in that. But like they are telling me like I need to be in there more, and that's how I can reach a younger generation of completely different people that aren't watching any of our shows if we're building houses in Bloxburg. Like that's where one of the things WBD is there. Like we had a Craig of the Creek integration into Roblox. Like we need to be there more. I need to build houses in Roblox.
I love that.
I keep saying it out loud, and someday it's gonna happen.
My wife had a meeting with Roblox solely to understand, like, how could we safeguard that for our 8-year-old? And she sat there, and then they're like, can you sell cosmetics in Roblox? They had a solution. What's up?
Yeah, so you see content coming from places like platforms like Tastemade. Is that something you might find yourselves going in the direction towards, maybe creating some sub-brands that differentiate from what I can gather these HGTV networks that are more targeted at people that 55 and older, and they might have that connotation to those younger generations. This is like a 55 and older product. Do you think you might actually kind of create something similar or just call it something else?
So, everything goes around comes around. At one point, we had all of that. We had an HGTV Gather that was going to be for younger people. We had an HGTV Blue Sky that was going to be a little bit more for travel. The one that stuck was we have one that was previously called HGTV Handmade, which was a lot more crafting and like tactile content. So it's not flipping a house; it's more like doing a project. We have just shifted the name of that to HGTV Home because we wanted it to be a little bit more all-encompassing than just crafting. And so that exists right now. So we're building out the strategy for that right now on HGTV Home. It's on YouTube, Facebook, and Insta right now. We also have a Food Network Kitchen, which is a little bit more specific into like more in-depth baking and cooking videos and demos. So we're trying to use those to explore that. On the TLC side, they have created individual experiences for shows because they realize like the 90-day fan might not be the Dr. Pimple Popper fan. So they have a lot of different experiences. And so that's what I'm learning about that one, how to dig into those a little bit more.
And I think we're about at time here for a networking break, but I have one more question for you.
I got it.
What was your favorite music video?
So I think I have a good answer for this. So I went to see the Meghan Trainor concert here in Atlanta a few weeks ago. Brought my kids to it. It was amazing. And then I started thinking when you said what's your favorite music video, she's an experience. Like obviously I've watched the music videos and I think she was so smart. Like she brought influencers into her Made You Look video. Like she brought a lot of different people in that then could expand that to their audiences. But I feel like every TikTok video that she puts out is a music video in itself. And like the fact that she's thinking about what dance can I create for this song that I put out, and how can this be a 10-second video that's going to get people, and what's the integration of other people into it, is so smart. And so her entire experience, I feel like, is a music video.
Great answer. Thanks, guys.